When I first saw your message, said to myself, "Well, I'm not a scientist. Why is he inviting me?" But again, I really thought of who is a scientist actually. Do you have to reach a certain level to be called a scientist? I said, no. I think it's just anyone who does science using the scientific methods should be called a scientist. So, of course, yeah.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Wonderful Scientist Podcast. This is your host, Sarah Nakeri, and you are in a space where we let scientists be vulnerable as they can to talk about the highs and lows of them being where they are. And today I have Dan, who will tell us more about himself. So kindly introduce yourself.
My name is Damkan, and I'm a Gambian national. The Gambia is actually a small country. For those who do not know, it's actually the smallest country on mainland Africa. It's situated in West Africa. So it's a small strip of land embedded within another country, Senegal. I am currently a PhD student, and I'm also working at the Medical Research Council Unit, the Gambia, which is a UK institute found in the Gambia. And my PhD is registered with the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. The work I do is mainly on the molecular detection of bacterial pathogens, such as Streptococcus pneumonia, Neisseria meningitidis, and the Haemophilus influenza. And I have been working in this institute for the past 5 years now. For my PhD, I started it in 2020, late 2020. So I'm in my second year now. So my PhD is basically focused on a respiratory pathogen called Streptococcus pneumonia. So it has two aspects. So I can say it's two different fields within the scientific fields, but everything is geared towards understanding the carriage of Streptococcus pneumonia. So for starters, for those who do not know what carriage is so most of the bacteria that causes diseases such as pneumonia, respiratory diseases, as well as meningitis disease are actually carried at the back of our nose as commensal. So they do not cause any disease when they are carried at the back of our nose. But with time, due to some disturbances in the environment at the back of our noses, they can then go ahead to other organs in the body to cause disease. So what I'm trying to understand is how two factors affect this carriage of Streptococcus pneumonia. And the two factors are first air pollution, and then the second, the bacterial microbiome. And number one, why am I interested in air pollution? But come to think of it, the air that we breathe in first comes into contact with this bacteria at the back of our noses. So the composition of the air will likely determine which bacteria survive or which bacteria are eliminated from the back of our noses. So I'll be looking at different air pollutants and see how they impact the carriage of Streptococcus pneumonia. So that is like 50% of the PhD part of the work. So the other part is looking at how the bacterial microbiome affects the carriage of Streptococcus pneumonia. So the bacterial microbiome is the total number of bacteria living within the back of our noses. Because they share the same environment with Streptococcus pneumonia, so they have an impact on it. Because sometimes these bacteria release some toxins which can affect Streptococcus pneumonia. They also share resources, so they definitely have an impact on whether Streptococcus pneumonia survive or gets eliminated from the back of our noses. So in a summary, this is what I'm working on. It's a lot of work, but we are moving slowly, and surely we'll get there.
How will your work help the community at large?
That's a good question. So the study that we are doing right now, the study that I'm working on, which is the PhD, it's actually done in rural Gambia. So we are collecting samples from children 5 to 15 years old in rural Gambia. So most of these kids have been vaccinated. So the Streptococcus pneumonia, which is the pathogen that I'm working on, has actually an effective vaccine, which is routinely given to kids. But due to the introduction of this vaccine, we have seen that diseases caused by Streptococcus pneumoniae has really gone down, it has reduced. But there is still residual disease. So there is still the bacteria is still persistent in causing it, although the rate has decreased significantly. Now we want to come up with alternative strategies to see how we can further reduce this or to eliminate the pathogen if possible. So this is why I'm trying to understand how the air pollution, which has not been looked at in the past, and the bacterial microbiome, how it impacts the persistent carriage of this pneumococcus. So by the end of the study, we will get an idea of how to reduce sources of air pollution, and also how we can make use of the interaction between Streptococcus pneumoniae and other bacteria in the back of our nose to come up with alternative strategies to help protect us from this deadly pathogen.
Okay, great. So tell us how you got here. Tell us your journey from how did it start?
Yes. So when I completed my secondary school in the Gambia, I did my schooling in the Gambia. I was among the students that got scholarship from the then president of the Gambia. After every class 12, which is the final class in secondary school, the government sponsors some students, the top students, to study abroad. So during our year, we were selected to study course of our choice in India. So I decided to pursue a BSc degree in biotechnology. So which I did for. Yes, that's a good question. Why I studied biology, and to be honest with you, that wasn't my intent. When I was going to school, I didn't want to study. I was only focused on studying engineering, electrical engineering. But when I when I was applying for the scholarship, I was told that there was no electrical engineering course, but there is biotechnology. I didn't know what biotechnology was at that point in time, so I had to do my own research. You know, for us in the Gambia, all that we wanted, all that school-going children in the Gambia want is following the completion of our senior secondary school, we go abroad to study. So it was all of it. But in the Gambia, we only had one university. At that point in time, the University of the Gambia, and then the only best course that was offered was medicine. And then, so I didn't want to do medicine at that point in time. So I just wanted to do engineering or out abroad. So when I was told that the electrical engineering course was not available, was not offered, so I said, okay, let me just see what biotechnology has to offer. So I did my research on biotechnology, and then when I went to India, I decided to study biotechnology because I love what it had to offer. So I did biotechnology for 4 years, and I was one of the top students at the end of the course. So then I came back to the Gambia. When I came back to the Gambia, you had to work for the government for some time because you have to sign a bond that once you complete your course, you come back to the Gambia and then you work in health institutes or in hospitals in your country, the Gambia. So this is the interesting bit. When I came back, I worked in one of the hospital labs, but the working conditions was not favorable to me. So I spent like 2 weeks working in the lab. Then I had to organize a meeting with the HR of the hospital, and then told them I can no longer work here because of the conditions were not favorable. Firstly, there were very limited resources. As a scientist working in the lab, you want to protect yourself. You want to have good working conditions. Protect yourself as in you need proper PPE.
Yeah.
You need to be properly introduced to the work. You need to know what you are doing, the standard operating procedures you have to follow. This is all important for a scientist. This was not available then because I didn't have any direction as to what to do, who to report to. So the structure, the organizational structure was not there. And this is not this is not what I wanted. So I decided, let me just um, uh, organize a meeting with the HR and tell them that I can't work here and see what they have to say. So when I went there, they said, okay, it's your choice. We cannot force you to work. So when I did that, I had a friend who told me of this institute that I'm currently working on, which is a UK institute, but it's based in the Gambia. He told me they have actually a very good structure, and then they work on infectious diseases and molecular biology. And I love molecular biology because it was one of my courses that I did for my BSc. So I decided to apply for an internship here at the Medical Research Council. And then following the internship, I was given a job. So this is how I started working.
Wait, if you studied in Gambia, for example, and you got to that situation in the hospital, the work environment issue, do you think you would have had an issue compared to you coming from India and being introduced to that environment?
Yes, I think because when those who studied in the Gambia, they didn't have the issue because they didn't have experience working in other labs. So for me, the reason why I found it challenging is because where I was working, that's not how things were. When I was in India, I was working in some labs, and that's not how things were. So when you come, it's sort of a downgrade. So it was difficult for you to. But those who studied in the Gambia, because this is all that they know, so it was easier for them to just go with the flow.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So, so this is, you finished your biotechnology degree. You've come back home. Now you've tried this hospital thing. It's not working. Now you're in the London. How is it called?
It's a very long name. It's the Medical Research Council Unit, the Gambia, at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine.
How did you get into that institution?
Yeah, so it was actually easy. When my friend told me, then I had to come to the institute to get an internship form, which I applied. So when I applied for it, after a couple of months or less than 2 months, they called me for an interview. It was a very short interview. I met with one scientist from Zimbabwe. She wanted to hire me for an internship. So we had a discussion of about 5 minutes. I told her what I wanted, and then she told me that I can come the next day. Yeah, so that's how it started. So I did my internships for 6 months. Then this was in 2016.
Was it paid?
You are only given transport allowance. You are not paid. You are not a staff, but you are given transport allowance for the duration of the internship. Yeah.
So after 6 months?
So after 6 months, the institute advertised a job, which actually I was working in my internship for. So I had an advantage to other applicants because I knew the project. I was already working on the project. So we were 3 in number, so I got selected for the job.
And how did you transition to getting a PhD?
I actually have, from 2017 to 2020, within these 3 to 4 years, I gained a lot of experience working. So, and then during this period also, I've been trying to apply for master scholarships, but it wasn't successful. Then I had this opportunity. I just applied for a PhD directly, which my supervisor helped me with. So I had to apply. So I have a lot of experience working in the lab, working with other scientists, conducting trainings and the like, and publications, which maybe we can discuss about later. So I then said to myself, well, why not I just directly apply for a PhD? So which my supervisor, my line manager supported. Then we did the applications together, and then
So
I started the PhD.
where is it based, the PhD?
So some of the work will be done here
The
in the Gambia.
university.
The university is
Sorry.
in the UK.
Oh,
The
so
university in the UK.
Okay, so some of the work will be done in the Gambia?
Yes. And we intend to do some of the work in the US. And I also have my PhD advisor in the London, so I will have to meet her at some point.
Oh, great. All right. So this is interesting. So you were looking for a master's, then you got this opportunity to do a PhD. How is it, in your current setup? How is it like this guy did a BSc, then directly goes to do a PhD? How is it like? Is it something you were thinking about?
Yeah, but again, I think things have the structure. The structure from BSc, MSc to PhD has changed a bit over the past years, especially for the UK. Now, in most UK universities, you don't require a master's to do a PhD.
Yeah, I understand that, but I want to understand in your context, like, is it something you had known or you were thinking about, like you could just directly do a PhD?
Not in my first 2 years of working, because all that I was thinking about is masters. I never look out for PhD applications. But then again, I said I have worked for 3 years, and I just still have a BSc, which I didn't really hit because I wanted to move on with my career. But I was saying, but I'm getting old now. How comes? I've been worked for 3 years with no additional degree. I said, you know what? Let me just try and apply for a PhD, just so that I can finish it as soon as possible. Because as a scientist, we are not only scientists; we also want to have family. So it's a bit difficult once you start a family to study. So you will want to finish your studies as soon as possible and go ahead and set up a family. Although you can do both anyway. It depends on the individual.
Yeah. Okay. Before we talk about the papers, can you go to the laws that you've experienced through your journey?
Yeah. The first one, I think, will be when I went to India. The culture shock. So when I went to India, I can remember the first time I attended a class. I think it was a 45-minute or 1 hour class. So the lecturer was talking, giving her lectures. But again, like throughout the class, I said I couldn't understand even a single sentence of what she was saying because of her accent.
Because of the accent.
Yes, it was totally different. So at the end of the class, I just held my hand on my head and said, "Why did I come to this place?" It's like I said, I kind of regretted it, but I didn't know that this is how it was going to turn out. So it was a very difficult moment for me, especially the first few weeks, because I was really finding it difficult to understand what the lecturers were saying. So all that I was depending on reading on my own, watching YouTube lectures of non-Indian nationals. So this was my first low, the culture shock, because and this is something that scientists can experience throughout their careers. Because as scientists, we collaborate, so you can meet scientists from other backgrounds, other cultures. If you are not prepared to for such experience, you might find it difficult. So this was the first one. So the second low that I experienced was when I came back to the Gambia and started as an intern in the MRC where I work right now. So when I just started, I felt this imposter syndrome, this was not, and this was partly due to the people that I work with. So they really didn't help. So it's very. I mean, as a mentor, as a mentor or a line manager, needs to be a specific set of skills that you need to have to work with your mentee. Otherwise, because I just came in, I was not offered a job, so I was nervous. I wanted to be offered a job at the end of my
Internship.
my intern. So because I didn't want to make any mistakes. So if your mentor or your line manager doesn't help in that regard, you might feel that you do not belong, especially if you are asked a question and you don't know. Well, it's terrible. If you are not strong mentally, it can have impact on your mental health. And then you'll be thinking of, what if I finish this internship, will they give me a job or not? So this impacted me when I just came in. I lacked self confidence because I was just thinking of, what are they going to give me a job when I'm done? So this really was another low for me. Until I became a staff, that's when I really started, having that confidence in me, started to achieve things.
Wow, I love that you're talking about that, because it's actually very common. It's just that we don't talk about it. I don't know why, but it's very common, and I can relate to that. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, and even so, right now I'm mentoring one student. I can see myself in her. Actually, this is, but I always try to, motivate her. Trying to tell her to be open to discuss her ideas. That I'm not here to judge her, but it's the same thing that I felt, that she is feeling right now. Will they give me a job? But I always try to tell her that this is the way you are feeling, is the same way I felt. So you shouldn't be worried about it. I think that's how that mentors or line managers try to motivate the ones you're mentoring. As a PhD student or as a research degree student, you always want to get feedback on your work. So sometimes the supervisors that we are working on are very busy people. So you do your work and then you send it to them. You wait on it for forever to get a feedback. I mean, this is also another law that I myself, and I'm sure that not only me but other students experience, especially in African universities. We have professors who are so busy that you find it difficult sometimes you find it difficult to meet with them. Sometimes for me, I don't have that problem because my supervisor is very open. I can always go to his office without even an appointment. But when you send in like some work for him to review, sometimes it's difficult to get him. So this is also another challenge that I'm experiencing, that I have experienced as a scientist.
Do you think that they're overwhelmed with work? Like there's not so many people in the level can do the work they are doing?
Yes, for me, my supervisor, he's very supportive, but he has a lot of work to do. That's why sometimes it's difficult for him to give you a written feedback. So whenever I meet him, we can discuss. But whenever he goes to his office, like he has some other work to do, so he wouldn't get back to me with the written feedback. I think they are overwhelmed with work because we have very limited scientists who are African scientists who are who are at the top there. So because of that, so they have a lot of obligations, a lot of tasks to do. So they usually don't have time for their juniors. So that's an issue with most African scientists studying in Africa or with African supervisors.
Okay, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Is there another law?
I think those are the most important that I wanted to discuss.
Okay.
Well, it's already 30 minutes. We've talked a lot. But yeah, anyways, so we have, you want us to discuss the highs, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, my line manager is actually the head of a WHO collaborating center in Africa. So WHO, they have different collaborating centers all over the world. So for vaccine preventable diseases, my line manager is heading one of the collaborating centers in the Gambia. So we actually work with 11 West African countries. So we offer training, we offer workshops, and I have been very active in organizing these workshops and also in meeting with other laboratory scientists in West Africa. So this is actually a high for me because science works on collaboration. So I find it very I always find it very very good to collaborate with other African scientists so that we can share our ideas, know the type of work that they do and the type of work we do, so that we can exchange ideas and move what we are doing forward. So where I can remember in 2018 I attended one workshop in the US where I was trained, come back to train other African scientists, which I find very very good. So this is one of the highs. And then I also, through another program sponsored by Welcome Trust, I teach in one of the courses in molecular microbiology. This course is usually attended by scientists or PhD students, master students from different African universities. So I get the time to network with other scientists. So this collaboration and network with other African scientists it's what I love the most on my job. And then the second thing is so my one of my mentors, she used to say that for us scientists, our currency is in the number of publications we have and then the number of grants that we win. So my first publication was in 2018. So this is a manuscript that I have worked on for almost 2 years. I started it in 2017. And the reason why I actually was given the opportunity to work on this manuscript is because the scientist who was working on the manuscript left the team that I currently work on. So I was given the opportunity to work on this manuscript. So it was a 2-year hard work, came to fruition at the end of 2018. So this was one of my highs working in the scientific field. So the publication was actually looking at the impact of using pneumococcal vaccine on meningitis cases in Niger. Yeah. So I collaborated with other scientists from Niger to come up with this manuscript, and it was my first author manuscript.
Wow.
Yeah. And then in 2019 also I attended a conference in Dakar. Actually, I have attended many conferences, but this conference which I attended in Dakar, in Senegal, stands out. And the reason why is because I was able to formulate my PhD topic based on what I learned on this workshop. So sometimes we attend workshops, we go to workshops, we come back with knowledge, sometimes we go and come back with nothing. But when I went to this workshop, I learned a lot, and then I was able to frame my PhD research, my PhD based on what I learned from this workshop. So it is also one of the highs of my career. The workshop was organized by the University College London, but it was done in Senegal. So I was given the I attended the conference. I actually presented a poster, got feedback on the poster, and then I decided, to frame my PhD. Whenever I'm not into science or doing science or working, I usually spend my time with my family. Yes, I am married. I have one kid.
Oh.
Yes, 4 months old kid. Well,
That's
since
so
he was
cute.
born, I just spend my time with him and my wife. But before I got married, most of the time I spend it on sport activities. Either I'll be playing football or watching football, basketball. So most of the thing I do is sports, and then sometimes also I engage myself in reading history. I also love history. As I'm speaking to you right now, in fact, my screensaver is the pyramids of Giza in Egypt.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
yeah, so it's one of the places that I want to visit. So I love history and sports. That's what I do apart from science. I think I've discussed all that I wanted to discuss. The only thing now is to just to thank you for inviting me for this podcast. I really appreciate it, and I think this is a good thing. And this is the second podcast that I have attended. Yeah, the first one was about a couple of months ago on indoor air pollution and how it impacts health. I think this is an opportunity for me as a scientist to express my ideas. I actually jumped to this opportunity because for me personally, I find it difficult to talk in public, which should not be. Because as a scientist, you should be able to communicate your ideas. So this is an opportunity for me to develop my interpersonal skills, my communication skills. So I really thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming in. I'm just wondering, how do you feel after this conversation?
I feel good, and I feel that I have actually achieved something. I think it went very well. So I feel good, in short.
Thank you for listening. You can now support this production through www.patreon.com/thevulnerable scientist.